Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, CX in Staffing, how best the staffing firms outpace the industry. We'll get started here in just a couple of moments, but I do want to give people a chance to get logged into the system. And so we'll do a little bit of housekeeping while we're going through that piece of it as well. We are recording this, so recognize that you don't have to take feverish notes. You can just sort of sit back and engage. We will make sure that you have a recording of this in its entirety, as well as the slides to refer back to as well. In addition to that, I am monitoring the Q&A tab as well as the chat tab. So if you have questions, put them into one of those two spots, and I'm happy to address those as we go through there as well. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. It's going to be a fast-paced, now 29 minutes. As we go through this, I'm committed to getting you out on time. There's a lot to cover, and I'm excited to share with you some of the things that we're seeing in the industry, as well as trends around CX for staffing. The first piece I want to kind of hit is just the blend of art and science that CX really is. The programs that we see that are the best are really a blend of rigorous measurement and improvement, a process that gets followed with consistency, alongside of really passionate people that make those experiences work, that see the opportunities to deliver wow experiences to clients and talent and internal employees. And I wanted to kind of share this piece of it, this picture of the steam engine. One of the fascinating things is that the steam engine was actually invented before people and scientists specifically actually understood the real workings of how thermodynamics actually can work. And so the product was developed, and then ultimately they understood what was actually making it work at a later point. And I think we see that a lot with CX. People will know, for example, oh, these 3 account managers are really good. These 2 recruiters are great. But they don't really know why. And that's really where we kind of come in on this, is to try to help understand not just what's going wrong so you can fix that, but really more so what's going right. How do we shine the light on those pieces of it? And we're really proud of the work that we do on this. We take our own medicine. 89% give us a 9 or a 10. 96% of our staffing firms say we help them differentiate. 97% report positive ROI. And that's, each year we power the CX programs for 300 plus staffing firms in the space. So 31 of the top 100. This is kind of interesting. We did an analysis of the firms. If you look at all the firms in the industry that are greater than 100 million, and you look at the ones that we work with, they actually outpaced in growth by about 16% the firms that we're not currently working with as a part of this. And as much as I would like to say this is all clearly rated, the reality is that this speaks more appropriately to the impact that CX has on your organization, and the impact over a period of time that better experiences delivered to your clients, to your talent, and to your internal employees can really drive the growth of the business. We're going to talk a lot about Net Promoter Score. Net Promoter Score, if you're not familiar with it, was developed 20 years ago now, 20 plus years ago now, by Fred Reichheld as part of Bain. He's a former Bain consultant. And what he found was that this question on a 0 to 10 scale, how likely are you to recommend this firm to a friend or colleague, is a really, really strong indicator of what people are going to do in the future. And so, are they going to spend more? Are they going to spend it all? That really matters on this, and this question does a good job of predicting that. And so as we look at this, what we see on Net Promoter Score is the percentage of promoters, the 9s and 10s, people that love you, minus the percentage of detractors, 0 through 6. And that's how you get your score. And so the score can range from negative 100 to positive 100. And I'll show you some current trends from our data and some benchmarks from our data, so that if you are measuring this already, you'll have some good benchmarking context on this. But the scores could go from negative 100, which is everybody hates you. So all detractors, no promoters or passives, or positive 100, which is everybody loves you. And that's all promoters, no passives, no detractors. Well, neither of those ever actually happen. So a good score is considered 30 or so. An exceptional score is 50. World class is considered at 70 or above. So what I want to share with you today is some quick state of the industry employment trends, the actual impact of CX on staffing growth. We've been able to analyze this and look at actually survey data alongside of actual turnover data, alongside of actual financial performance of firms. And so I'll share a little bit of that. We'll talk about best of staffing and then some of the real lessons on how we're seeing firms that are still growing during these last couple of years that have been really challenging for the industry. What are they doing that's different, and shine some light on that as well. So the first thing I wanted to share is this layoffs and quits. And what we see here is that, you know, the quits, we had the great resignation that was happening. And during 2021 and early parts of 2022, people were quitting at really historic rates. And we've given all of that back, and now we're actually quitting at a lower rate than we did between 2018 and the start of 2020. So we're all the way back to actually 7% less quits per month in the most recent data from BLS than we had pre-pandemic. We're 29% lower than the peak. So people are quitting their jobs less often than they were. Layoffs are still down 30% below the peak, 14% below the pre-pandemic levels. So we're also not laying off a lot of people. There's just not as much movement in the employment as there was for a while. And that was driven a lot by people quitting for a while. And it was driven a lot before that by higher layoffs as a portion of it. When we look at the hiring and the job openings, what we see is kind of a similar story. The job openings have come down dramatically, down 35%. Hiring is also down 35% from its peak. But it's a little bit different story when you look at pre-pandemic. Job openings are still up 10% versus the pre-pandemic level. And keep in mind that pre-pandemic level was actually a pretty hot job market as well. When you look at 2018 and 2019, those were good job markets, low unemployment, and good job openings. So we're still up 10% from that. So there is demand out there. There's just very limited supply. Average hires per month are also down 10%, 35% down from the peak. This is, I think, a really interesting slide because it shows something that we're all kind of trying to wrap our heads around, which is starting in Q4 of 2022, for the first time since we've been monitoring this industry, we saw a break from the correlation of total employment to temporary help employment. And in fact, as total employment, even with the revised numbers, and there was a huge BLS revision downward, but even with those revised numbers, we've seen, you know, consistent growth, very similar to historical levels of pre-pandemic growth on the overall employment. And yet temporary help, instead of growing alongside of that as it has in the past, has actually been on a 2-year decline as a part of this. And so what's driving that, right? We're actually down. We haven't been at this level in August or September since 2013 as a part of it. So what's really driving that? So a lot going on, from talent hoarding, post-pandemic reset. We talked to a lot of leaders at large staffing firms. We're seeing more use of independent contractors, more SOW work. And I also think that there's automation on the commercial side is playing a big role, offshoring and nearshoring for some of the professional areas. And then, you know, in the healthcare staffing space, we're seeing definitely on the nursing side some pushback from the, you know, really high fees that were needing to be charged during the pandemic. That kind of created a situation where we have a lot of hospitals that are really focusing in on, okay, how do we not be beholden to that in the future? So the great thing is that when we look at this on financial performance, what we see is that if you have a score of 0 through 6 as a client, you are 56% less likely to reorder in the following year. So turnover of clients is much higher, as you would expect. What's interesting, though, to me is that even if they do come back, on average, they decrease the spend by 14% versus a promoter who, if they come back, increases the spend by 8%. So it's a real leading indicator of actual spend. When we look at this at our temporary employees, we see temporary employees are 1.8 times more likely to quit, 2 times more likely to be fired. You look at internal employees, and you see that the detractors are 1.3 times more likely to churn than passives, 1.7 times more likely to churn than promoters. So if you're measuring this, it really does give you an opportunity, not just at the macro level, but at the individual talent level, at the individual client level. Who are your risks for churning, and are we able to do something to get out in front of that and minimize that, or at the very least prepare for that? That's really at the core of Best of Staffing. And we'll talk a little bit about our Best of Staffing employee, client, and talent surveys, as well as our Best Staffing Firms for Women list and recognition. This is really the most rigorously validated award program available. And you really get access to our entire CX platform as a part of this. The recognition, if it's earned, is really sort of on top of all of the other things that we have as a part of that. You have to have at least 15 responses in each of those categories, 20% response rate, or if you have a minimum of 250 responses, that's enough for us as well. You have to survey all clients. You can't cherry pick. Survey all clients, all placed talent, at least once during a 3-month to 12-month period as a part of it. And then the 50% net promoter score is required there as well. On the Best Staffing Firms for Women, we add in some things around the percentage of your leadership team that are female, the break in experience between female and male employees, and things along those lines. So when you look at this and you look at getting feedback, one of the things that most every program, SurveyMonkey, any others, will allow you to ask questions of your audience and report back on those findings. And our belief is that you really ought to reimagine what you could do with all of this data. And I think that this is a really unique time where we're doing more and more with the data that we have. But the ClearlyRated platform actually allows you and empowers you to not only act on those insights, but also it's an internal employee recognition program, which is really critical right now because there's not a lot of good news for employees. So keeping morale up, this is a great tool to be able to do that. Also allows you to really differentiate in that marketplace and impacts how you acquire new business, new job recs, and recruit in a more effective and efficient manner. Survey question, and again, you'll get all of this so you can see these on the client side. It's a simple 8-question survey. It allows you to kind of understand what's going on there. You can see sort of the firms that we work with really tend to put that service at the forefront. The scores have gone up, and you see the median score is actually over that world-class level and significantly over the Best of Staffing minimum. When you look at the response rate, it's held pretty even. Response rate is one of the biggest challenges that we look at overall. We're about double what the B2B average is, which is a 12.5% is the B2B average for surveys. We're at about 26% is the median. We do see significantly lower and significantly higher. And so a lot of it is really how you're supporting and promoting this within your organization as well. On the talent side, very similar, very quick, easy to finish survey. We also can allow this to really be journey-based. We've built in the system with our integrations, we'll talk about this as well, where you can survey at the start of assignment, at a 30-day point, and end of assignment. So really 3 critical points to target within the journey. And so we've been doing more and more of that to help people really understand and manage those assignments that they're on there as well. The scores on the talent side have been right around that world class as the median. And you can see we've had more decline, although from a higher point on the talent response rate. So again, it's really important to continue to work to break through those barriers on response rate. Internal employee survey questions are also included here, and you can see the internal employee satisfaction has gone down. If I had the 2024 numbers out, you would see another decline on that, and that's really being driven by a big move back to office. It's being driven by, I think one of my good friends at Bullhorn said it really well the other day. Everybody's working 30% harder for 20% less. And so that's as a challenge on morale as well. It's just been a tough couple of years. And so we're seeing that show up in the satisfaction, but the engagement still remains high. About 70% response rate is something you can kind of typically expect in that piece of it. But you can see the lower level, the ones that are losing that is expanding there in the last couple of years. So even though the median has been pretty stable, those that are struggling at a higher rate than they have in the years past. As part of Best of Staffing, we do have and maintain really strong integrations with Bullhorn, Aviante, Salesforce, Workin, Microsoft Dynamics, eRecruit. The ability to really integrate within each of those is a critical component. We've got HubSpot coming on tap for end of year 2024 as well. So what is the survey program? We get this feedback in. One of the things I think we do really well is to help you see very, very quickly, not only what's going on, but how different segments, whether that be, the different experience at onboarding versus mid-assignment versus end of assignment, or perhaps the different, service levels in your Atlanta office versus your Alpharetta office. And the ability to see those types of things is really, really impactful. One thing I will say is that for most firms, if you're of, let's say 20 million plus, you're going to want to see some segmentation on this because you won't have a consistent service experience. You'll have some variability, and that's part of the value of this, is really understanding where you're doing great so that you can shine the light on what's happening that's driving that, and where you're struggling so you can drive and put the light on that as well. One of the things that I think we really do a great job of is making this a positive experience. Too often, what you'll see is that people think about a satisfaction survey as a punitive exercise. And they think about it in terms of like, okay, we're going to find out all the things we're doing wrong. It's kind of like a 360 feedback where you're kind of nervous going into it. But the reality is that most firms are delivering way more wow experience than they are cringe experience. And so we try to really capture that. And in fact, about half of your promoters will leave a testimonial. And that's a really powerful piece to be able to utilize and differentiate and really de-risk the decision of working with you as you go to the market. Shout outs. I talked about the employee recognition piece. Same thing goes. If somebody gives you a 9 or a 10, about 40% of the time, they'll leave a shout out for a specific employee. We are in the people business, and our people are the ones that go above and beyond and create those wow experiences that drive the loyalty. So let's make sure that we recognize them. So we can do that inline, automated. It can go out and be delivered directly to the person. It can be delivered to their manager. So you have a lot of opportunities there on how you can handle that. You can even post those on social media. So you can post them on LinkedIn and tag the person. You can post the testimonials on LinkedIn or Facebook as well. The reviews piece is really, really critical as we go through here. And when you look at this, online ratings or reviews are actually the second most persuasive thing for clients. The most persuasive thing, even more than a personal referral to job candidates, which really makes sense. And we saw this, we've tracked this for almost a decade. And what we've seen is that it's gone up kind of in relation to Gen Y and younger, their growth in the workforce, because Gen Y and younger has always had the advantage of being able to see what other people thought of their experience when they're making key decisions like this. And so to be able to go in and see, okay, here's what those ratings look like. We work really hard to make sure that they show up on the first page of search results and they can help tell your story in a positive way. Along those lines, we just recently brought this out where recruiter level star ratings can be shared as well. They can have a profile page. This verified recruiter was sort of fascinating to me in the product side of it. What we found was that the biggest barrier that they had before they ever got into sort of, are you a good recruiter or not, is answering this question for a prospect of, is this even a recruiter? And so the ability to have a third party validate that this is an actual recruiter with actual opportunities was really impactful. In fact, we found that the likelihood to respond to a cold email went up by about 20% for people that had their profile pages active and could show not only the star ratings and testimonials, but also that they were a verified recruiter. So when we look at this, a couple things that we have that we just launched on this, we have a buyer intent component of this now, which will actually show you potential prospects that are visiting your website. This has been really popular. I think as we went through kind of pre-pandemic, and it was harder to fill positions than to get job orders, and kind of going through the pandemic, similar things were happening. Well, now all of a sudden we're having to flex our sales muscles again. And to do that, part of it is understanding who we should be reaching out to in an effective way. And so we're actually bringing now all of the visitors, we're bringing information about who those visitors are to your firm so that you can actually target those people, reach out with a sales motion as well. And speaking of that, what we find is that we actually oftentimes can uncover new opportunities as this. So it's not just asking them about their past, it's asking them what they need from us to be successful in the future. And so we've added in a question to allow you to reach out and have a good feel for what the opportunities are as a part of that. And what we find is that for every 100 completed surveys, there's about 26 opportunities that come out of this question. So really, really nice, positive way to impact this. And if you're trying to argue for the survey internally, if you're trying to, argue with your leadership or other leaders at your firm, this is one of the effective ways to do this, is to be able to say, look, not only are we going to get feedback, we're actually going to generate some opportunities as a part of this as well. Couple things that are really, really exciting that are coming soon. The first is our AI insight model. And you can see here we're bringing, the positive comments and also the benchmarking in line within our reporting. So I'm really, really excited to see this coming to fruition and coming out here in the next quarter or so. And then looking at how you really make sense of this. So NPS is really great. The open-ended comments are also really great, but the ability to understand how, the relationship, how issue resolution, how communication is driving that experience helps you understand where you need to focus with your team, what's going to have the biggest impact, and how you can drive that forward as well. So the last couple things that I want, and then I'll take questions here as we go through there. We've got about 7 minutes left. And I just kind of want to drive a couple things that we're seeing work for people. The first of which is de-risking the decision of working with your firm. It used to be enough that we could convince somebody that we were the best fit, and that was enough. But really now we have to convince them that we're the best fit and the least risky option. Part of that is because of the economic uncertainty. Part of that also is because of the group size. The decision-making group size has ballooned in the last decade on B2B buying. And what the research has shown is that as the more people are involved in the decision, risk aversion also goes up as a part of that. And so we have to find ways to really make sure that we are showing that they can trust us. And this is where the testimonials come in. This is where their online reputation comes in. And even the shout outs and the Amplify Recruiter pieces, those are all tools that help de-risk the decision of choosing your firm versus a different firm. Focus more narrowly, not more widely. Some of our power users will go in and they'll literally segment by an industry or by a target, an ideal customer profile that they have. And that way they can go in, they can pull a score. So let's say that I'm trying to sell to small to mid-sized software companies. I can target that, build that into my list, manage that segment separately, and immediately see how our scores are doing, bring back things that are actually important to that group, testimonials specifically from that group, and really target a great marketing and business development campaign towards that audience. Our natural indication when things get difficult economically is to expand our reach. We have to get out to in front of more people so that we can do this. And actually, what I see being more effective is when people narrow it. Where are we the best firm? Where do we have evidence? Where do we have proof that we do a really great job? And let's double down on that. Let's find the next 5 that fit that criteria. Identifying those expansion opportunities. Again, when you get to this point where people are nervous about taking on new risk, a new firm is risky. Getting expansion with your existing firm, doing more with your existing firm is less risky. So if you're doing a great job, identify those people and then make sure that you're going out and you're creating opportunities to expand that. And we're doing that now inline automatically within the survey. But you should be doing this on your own as well. When you get the survey responses back and you see 9s and 10s, those are invitations that are telling you that you're doing a great job. Ask for that referral. Ask for that. We're terrified to ask because we don't know 100% that we've earned the right to ask, but this survey will actually show you that you have earned that right to ask as well. Look and get creative. A lot of times what we kind of do is we say, okay, here's what we do, and let's go find people that need that. But what we really see as the opportunity is to say, okay, here's the customers that we're very close with, and here's what they need. Let's problem solve for those customers and stay close to those customers. And then the last thing about this too is that we oftentimes will look for productivity gains through our technology, and we should be looking for that. That's important. That's always going to be something that we need to do. However, for every hour that you gain in productivity, I would just encourage you to give 15 minutes of that back to the customer. Give 15 minutes back to that to the candidate. We can utilize our technology not to dehumanize the experience. We can utilize it to rehumanize the experience. And that's really what we're getting from all of the research that we do, is that people are wanting that technology. They're wanting that frictionless experience, but they're really wanting somebody in their corner who can give them context, who can give them coaching, who can help them navigate, whether it's hiring 3 new people on the hiring manager side, or whether it is finding that next opportunity on the talent side. So really focus in on those types of areas as well. And I see we've got a couple of questions in here already. And this one always comes up. How is the survey program priced? So the survey program is priced based on the number of internal employees that you have, and then the number of audiences that you utilize. So there's a few criteria there, and we work to really kind of find an efficient, cost-effective way for you to participate on that. So we can get you a quote typically within 1 or 2 short meetings to understand a little bit more about the organization. So just reach out, and we're happy to quote that for you. Is there a specific time that you have to survey? This is a great thing. So now is actually a pretty critical time. So we announced the Best of Staffing winners in February of 2025. And that means that you really have to have the survey done between now and the end of the year. And so we have an opportunity to really get things in place, but we do need to probably move fairly quickly. Typically, if we can get things closed out by the end of September, then we can get an October or November survey on the books for you, help guide you through that part as well. Can we customize the questions? Yes, is the short answer there. We have a standard set of questions that we know are really good for this industry. We've been researching and surveying in this industry for almost 20 years. So we have a really good standard set, kind of if you think about it, CX in a box. But we do have the ability to customize those survey questions as well. I want to be cognizant of time, so I'll take this as the last question. What's the biggest mistake that you see people make when they do surveys like this? I think the biggest mistake is not socializing the information and the findings across the firm. Too often we want to kind of distill this down to 2 or 3 bullet points and send it out to everybody. But there's real value in knowing who said what and being able to speak through that. And so I would just encourage you to get the information in front of the people that are delivering the service and give them visibility to that, because you'll naturally see an improvement in their scores once they know that this is something that's being measured. And then we can start to look at accountability. But start with visibility, you'll get a bump, and then later you can move to the accountability piece. With that, I would love to have an opportunity to work with you or talk to you and your team. If you have additional questions or I wasn't able to get to that, please do reach out to myself or anyone here at ClearlyRated. We're very proud of our partnership in this industry. We love this industry. It's our biggest industry. And we look forward to helping you have a successful rest of the 2024 campaign as well as 2025. Thanks a lot.